Hi everyone, this is the tabletop kiln. You will find that this and this base will be placed on each one of the tables in the classroom when we're working with fused glass. So what this particular machine does, it is actually melts glass for us. So it goes from 72 degrees up to 1500 degrees within a 20-25 minute time period. So what we would want to do is first we were going to make sure that we have our piece of glass that we intend to fuse, and then we are going to put it on a tile. Now when we put it on the tile, what I want you to notice is there's powder on that tile. And what that powder does is it helps prevent the glass from sticking to the tile, getting stuck and then shattering. Now, when you're looking at the powder that we put on there, it's actually in the form of paper. It looks like paper. It is actually firing paper, and it has little bullseyes on the background. I hope you can see that. And this particular paper is not actually paper, it's actually ceramic, so it is clay. And what happens is when we fuse it, it is going to turn into a powder, and then that powder is going to protect our tile or from our glass from touching our tile. So when we have that on here, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the lid, the top section. If it is hot, you are never going to place it onto a table. I'm just going to stick it right here. It is not hot. And then what I can do is I can lift up this base and I can put my tile on the inside. I'm going to put that back down and I'm going to make sure that it is sitting flat, and then I do want to look inside to make sure that it is completely centered and that it's flat and that the cord is not sandwiched in there. And then I'm going to put the lid back on. After I put the lid back on, I am going to plug in my machine. I'm going to do is I need to turn the kiln on. This little black button right here is the on spot. And so what we want to do is we actually want to turn it on to high. So we adjust it so it's on high. This light will turn on when the kiln is actually plugged in. And then when it's plugged in and on high, what we want to do is we want to check the kiln every 10 minutes in the beginning. Now the reason we do every 10 minutes is because originally these kilns, each one of them actually heats up at a different rate, and we need to know what rate it is heating up to. So after 10 minutes we're going to check the temperature, and it's going to give us an idea on how quickly this one is heating up. And then we're going to check it again after that next 10 minutes. And so generally the first 10 minutes it's not doing anything. We're really just checking to see how fast the temperature is rising. At the second 10-minute mark, sometimes the glass is starting to change. And if the glass is starting to change, you're going to notice the edges are getting rounder and then it's getting a little bit sparkly. Most of the time you don't notice that even in that second 10-minute window. But you are going to keep checking, and you're going to stay by your kiln, because it turns out the glass goes from completely solid to completely molten really, really quickly. So after that second 10 minutes, if you start to notice the edges are getting a little rounded, you're going to start shortening the time between your checks. So you're going to go to 5 minutes and then 4 minutes and 3 minutes. And really what you're doing is there's a window in here that you're checking it with, and you're making sure that that glass is melting just like you want it to. And the moment that you're happy with the results and what it looks like inside the kiln, you are going to simply turn off the machine, and then you're going to unplug it. When you wrap this cord back around, I want you to make sure that you do it nice and loose. I don't want it too tight around the kiln, and that's because the kiln is actually very hot on the outside. That means for the next step, crash and kneeling, when we're going to remove the lid part way to allow the hot air to come out. But it turns out the kiln is extraordinarily hot when we're getting ready to do this. And so it is best if you have a pair of gloves with you in order to be able to remove the lid. Now when you're removing the lid, all you're going to do is pick it up and move it halfway back. What happens at that point is all the hot air is going to rush out, and it is going to stop the baking process of the glass on the inside. Now you can look at the glass that is inside, and you can watch the colors start to come back because they fade while it's heating. But you want to make sure that you don't put your face right over the top of this, because you can actually get a burn on your face if you do. Now you're going to leave the lid off until you get to 1100 degrees. So 1100 degrees. And at that point, we want to put the lid back on. So we simply grab this and we lift it back up and put the lid back on. You don't want to scoot it across, because if you're scooting it across, chances are you're going to get this white powder to fall onto your nicely baked project. So you want to make sure that you are lifting it and putting it on. Now the temperature is going to rise at this point when we put the lid back on, and that's okay, but we want to leave it there for 4 to 5 hours without being interrupted by airflow. And the reason for that is it needs to cool off slowly. If glass heats up or cools off too quickly, it tends to get thermal shock and shatter. And so you need to make sure that this lid goes on well before that brittle stage. So 1100 degrees is our number. We put the lid on, and then we do not touch it for another 3 to 5 hours. Chances are you're going to actually pick up your project the next day, not the same day that you bake it. However, if you walk in and a kiln is hot, make sure you're not lifting the lid, because you could be destroying somebody else's project while doing that. So that is how you would use the tabletop kiln. Thank you.